Hello and welcome back to the TorontoWebsiteDeveloper.com. I am Peter Jaworski, the Toronto Website Developer. And in this video tutorial, I want to walk you through a recent bug bounty that I got from HackerOne that awarded me with $2,500. And I was able to arbitrarily write as an authorized Amazon Web Services user to one of their buckets. And so if you're not familiar with that, essentially Amazon Web Services are a suite of services that you can use for your websites, one of which is called Simple Storage. There's some other S in there, but Amazon S3. And so essentially it's just like a file repository for you, and you can serve files out of it. Amazon provides this, and part of that is setting up what are called access control lists. And so sometimes those can be pretty complex to set up. So you'll occasionally find where people either had errors doing so. Shopify was another example. Or you might have a situation where a developer doesn't know what they're doing and they just say, screw it, throw caution in the wind and create a bucket thinking they'll go back to it, and they don't. So this creates a great area for you to test and find vulnerabilities, just like I did. The reason why I'm flagging the book is if you purchase it, it helps me to continue to develop these tutorials, keep them free, keep them frequent. But also in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I wrote to the bucket. I'm not going to actually tell you how I found the bucket. It was a hidden bucket. I do so in the book, and so I would encourage you to purchase it if you're curious about that. But there's nothing really hidden here. I'm sure you can do some Google searches, some intuitive thinking, and probably come across what I did and find some of the buckets as to what I did. Now, all that said, I'm going to close up this. Here's my actual report, 128088 from HackerOne, and it'll describe kind of what I did. I'm going to walk you through the actual process for doing this, but I'm going to show you this because here's the actual message that you get when you're successful in moving a file. I'm not going to actually move a file to a bucket, so I'm not going to show you where I get this, but for reference, you'll know you succeed when you just see this one line as opposed to move failed. The other thing I'm going to show you is docs.aws.amazon.com, CLI. Just do a quick Google search. You can get the command line interface documentation. It's not very long, and when you check it out, it helps you understand what the commands are and kind of what this does. So that's why I flag it. You also do need an Amazon AWS Web Services account for this. You might have to enter credit card information, but you won't need to be you won't be charged for anything if you don't use this service. So I seem to be getting a lot of questions and a lot of confusion about that. Sign up, get an account, they'll give you an access key, and then from there, you'll go ahead and download their tools. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. You'll see I'm playing around here, so I kind of let the cat out of the bag, but let's pretend that's not here and just open up, of course, a new one. So first thing that you would do is just sudo apt-get install. And I think it's AWS CLI, something like that. It might be a dash in there, but you'll do that. I think if I do that, yeah, my password, of course. Yeah, so it tells me that I've got it. So it's sudo apt-get install AWS CLI. Assuming you're on Ubuntu, you might use yum install. But once you have that, now you're going to have this set of tools. And so I think if you type AWS, yeah, you don't really get it. But what you're going to have is AWS S3. And so the command line tools takes AWS as the first command, right? Like that's what you're going to be calling. And then the first option that you provided is the service that you're going to be running the function for. So we're calling for S3. Next thing that you do is you can actually type in help and you can get an idea of what's going on here. So there's great documentation, but down at the bottom here, you can see the available commands. And they're just like Linux commands. So list and copy and remove are the key ones. So what I did when I was trying to find a bucket was, as I mentioned, I was trying to find hidden buckets. But I got put onto this because when I was on HackerOne, I noticed that they had HackerOne-attachments.s3.amazonaws.com. And so this told me they were using the S3 service. I think they probably also documented somewhere. So anyway, so they talk about how files are encrypted at rest. But anyways, I kept seeing this and it finally drew my attention to it. And I thought, why not try to find other buckets? There must be something else out there. So I went, hunted for them, found them. And with that, what I did was AWS S3 LS, and then I did S3. You have to add that. And then I added the bucket name. So, and maybe because I'm dense, I couldn't figure out for the life of me at the beginning what was the bucket name. And so I kept putting in these long names, the full thing, HackerOne attachments, S3, Amazon, AWS.com. The bucket name is everything before S3. So you might get some crazy long bucket names, like, I don't know, like uber.vault, this doesn't exist, .com, or something like that. But that will be the bucket name because it's going to be before s3.amazon aws.com, right? So your bucket name, everything before s3. So here in my case, you'll see that I'm getting access denied. So access denied tells you that a bucket exists. If I do 123, you're going to get a different message. It says no such bucket. And so that's very telling to you. That should tell you, oh, I found something. Why don't I try to play with it? When I first found it, I got access denied and I thought, ah, shit, everything's locked down. And then I thought, why don't I try writing to the bucket anyways? And so I did one of these, mv test.txt. And so the move command takes a file and then an S3 bucket. Or alternatively, it will take an S3 bucket and move a file locally. So here I'm trying to take a local file, write it to S3, hit enter. And when I did that, lo and behold, I did not get an access denied message. I got the message that we saw on the web browser, which I think I closed. No, I didn't. I got move. It looked like it actually succeeded. And so after I did that, I thought, well, why don't I see if I can remove the file? And so I did one of these guys, rm, and you take the file name out of here and you tack it on to the end. So I did test.txt, and all of a sudden I got the same one line that the file had been removed. Here I'm getting forbidden because they've locked in all the buckets. And so at that point, I thought, this is great, I'm going to go and report. So I did, and as I thought about it, I realized I don't actually know if HackerOne owns the bucket. The thing is, here with HackerOne attachments, I know that the site is calling to that, but if I'm trying to find a hidden bucket, there's no guarantee that who I think owns the bucket actually owns the bucket, because S3 uses this global name directory. So I can go and I can register any name that I want. I could, conceivably, which actually ended up happening, I can go and I can, there was some Uber bucket that I think uber.s3.amazonaws.com. I thought Uber might own that. It turns out they don't. So again, that's an example of somebody that's gone out and grabbed an S3 bucket before Uber had a chance to grab it, for what it matters. So key takeaways here: Amazon AWS CLI allows you to play with buckets. That's what it means by an authenticated Amazon user. For web developers out there, it might be a good idea for you to start randomizing the names of your buckets if you don't want users to be able to find them. That is, you're not calling them from your website. But yeah, make sure your access control lists are set up properly. That's how I found this. If you're curious about how I went about actually finding hidden bucket names in an automated fashion, grab the book. A lot more detail in there. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know, and we'll see you for the next video tutorial, potentially hacker interview. Thanks very much for watching.